Hello guys, it's me again, your Lucky Speculum here, and you Master Duel. This is the part 3 of the lore video about the World Legacy, or better known as the Legend of the Star Heroes. Without further ado, I just completed the scenarios, like it's a very long. Without further ado, let's go into the Master Duel. Oh yeah, this is Aurum from his previous form to this form, to Sadia Maximus. And yeah, let's go on to the story from the last part 2 video of the World Legacy in the Legend of the Stars, the secret powers of the planet. Okay. A few years had passed since the nightmare of the tragedy. And when Aurum awoke, he found that the girl and her brother were no longer with him. Was Eve really gone now, for good? The loss of the girl had its grip over Aurum's heart like an unbreakable vice. I couldn't protect Eve. If I only were stronger, then her death could have been avoided. Nabada had left a chasm in Aurum's heart. Now that Eve was gone, Aurum had tasted the first time just how terrifying a battle could be, and how devastating losing someone you treasure could be. And he didn't have the heart to go on with his journey, not for now. However, there is still one thing in his mind that bothered him. It was Ningirsu. Even now, Aurum had no idea where he had gone. No doubt despair had taken him, now that his beloved sister was no more. When Aurum thought about how Ningirsu must be feeling right now, Ningirsu must be feeling right now, his heart became fraught with an immovable weight. But that was exactly what Aurum had to go after his childhood friend, and so the swordsman resumed his journey with Imduk. It was when panic was beginning to settle in Aurum's mind. Was it coincidence, or the mech-knight that dwelled within him led him to it? He stumbled across a dormant crawler. It occurred to Aurum that this might lead to a clue. He could try and restore it and see if its communication system still worked. And going to the second chapter of the third chapter. Aurum succeeded in restoring the crawler and gained access to its communication systems, along with a number of records. But detailed areas which swarms were active indicate on the locations where many crawlers had been destroyed. Perhaps there was still some life left in those areas, and if there was, maybe they would know where Ningirsu had gone. Armed with his new clue, Aurum set off to the areas he had gleaned from the records. However, as useful as their information was, it unfortunately didn't make Aurum's expedition any easier. There was a narrow sign of life to be spotted anywhere, and the journey was looking like it could end in vain. Nature, uncaring, unrelenting, continued to batter the two mercilessly. But at last, a glimmer of hope at the end of the arduous tunnel, Aurum and Imduk had stumbled across the remaining tribes of the planet. That of a fairy recluses, the stalwart beasts, and the sacred lakeside trees. All of this encounter brought no clues as to Ningirsu's whereabouts. Aurum and Imduk were blessed with the legends and knowledge of the tribes, and by linking them together, Aurum was able to unlock a great secret power of the world and witness the tremendous power that slumbered in its depths. It made him think of the world child's powers that were bestowed to him. But there was greater, far greater, hiding unbeknownst to the dwellers of the planet. Was, was this what Lee had thought? Oram thought. Okay. Mrs. Ibli, she died at the part 2 of the chapter in the video. And let's move on. He's kind of related to her and her brother. You have to go along. And what were those? I mean, what were the more secrets dwelled beneath the surface? One of them was rebirth records inscribed with the history of the planet, chronicles from generations long forgotten. And the other, bygone memories of the planet's glorious age where humans ruled from the apex. Long, long ago, there was a god who ruled the skies. With the dragonkind as its disciples, it perpetuated the cycles of destruction and rebirth to maintain the balance of the realms. However, the scale of the destruction grew bigger each time, and one day, the balance of the two were thrown into great disarray. Once this delicate balance toppled, even the sacred skies could not hold back the destruction it wrought. The god decided that it could no longer oversee the skies by itself. With its power of creation, it brought forth layers and layers of the toughest earth and sealed the powers of destruction within. With nowhere to go, the powers raged and raged until it boiled and scorched the very earth, morphing it. The torrent of power rushed through the land and merged with the powers of creation, leaking out onto the surface. It became a small manifestation of the cycle of death and rebirth. It gave life to the lands. With the last of its strength, the god then turned itself into a key and thrust it into the life blooming of the plant before vanishing. In the years following this appearance, the power of the destruction re-emerged of the forest many times. However, every time it did, the life of the planet would use the key and with the help of the dragonkind push it back to whence it came. Over time, the key became known as a word, the power of destruction as the Great Darkness. Thus, the great legend of the world hero was born. Starlit hero, your sword swat the light, and may you triumph over the great darkness. Okay, have to make it quick. This is Aram in his crusade journey, forming his crusade, no pun intended. Before that, history before what had happened and how it started, how it came to be. Decades, centuries, maybe millennia passed since the beginning of the report records. The land is now populated with life known as humanity. There was civilization who had gained scientific knowledge and technological know-how and were at the height of their prosperity. Their glory came at a cost, for not only tore the plant's gifts away from it, but also the dragons who protected it. The god and the dragons were the ones had faded into obscurity as mere tales. It was during this time that the key was excavated and uncovered. The humans were exhilarated by such legendary and mythical find. Although its authenticity became gradually acknowledged, some experts were raising doubts at the discovery. What did it mean for the key to have resurfaced in this time? Was this an omen, warning them of an unavoidable battle between the world hero and the great darkness, like the legend said? Now they could see that the key existed in sword form. Did this not also mean the powers of the destruction were indeed sealed within the planet's crust? Humanities began to assemble their finest to analyze the key. Within the team had formed, there was a scientist who has shown her talent in all the fields, astronomy and archaeology. If you guys know this character, it's going to be shown here. Her name was Lee. Lee was known all over the world as the foremost authority on computer science. The analysis was able to proceed smoothly thanks to her involvement, and not long after, the team branded itself an organization called as Crusader under the jurisdiction of the Confederation of Nations. Once they had analyzed the key further, they began to draft a plan that would help fight the immediate threats to their planet. It would involve warriors of a mechanical nature, and they call it Project Meknite. Work was to protect without a moment's delay. Meanwhile, Lee drew up a hypothesis sought to validate it in secret. She wanted to get the root of the appearance of the Great Darkness that world hero legend spoke of. Recorded in the legend were multiple tales of the key being used to drive back the Great Darkness by harnessing the powers of the creation and destruction. It was a simple enough story. The Great Darkness would appear and the world hero would fight it back with the key. However, could the reverse also not be true? Using the key was the very thing that drew the Great Darkness out. Though they were those who were entrusted with a divine mission and the conspirators who sought to revive the powers of destruction. The world hero legend was ultimately a story of their power struggle over the key. Whoever has the key will control the fate of the world. Or so went Lee's hypothesis anyway. The more time she spent trying to validate, the darker her ambitions grew. The divine powers will be mine. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 more. How the first Meknite being released to the world was destruction, and a few years have passed since the Project Meknite began. And finally, Meknite of the Morning Star was complete. It had been fitted with a core powered by the key and possessed enough power to fight the most deadly of wars. However, an incident occurred in its test run with none other than Lee as its test pilot. With the key, she had reversed all the celestial powers coursing through its mechanical body, diverted them to the planet's core faster than anyone could make a move. Lee had planned all this out before taking her place as the test pilot. The power that had flowed into the planet's core split the lands once again. The destruction from within overflowed to the surface, scorching every bit of the earth that it touched. The entire world was beginning to split apart in this unprecedented disaster, and the revival of the Great Darkness drew ever nearer. And the Meknites were born in this game. However, its resurrection was not without its obstacles. The Crusader had created as assistive units 7 Meknites in total. The remaining Meknites faced off a Meknite of the Morning Star and destroyed it, along with Lee in his ship, sealing away the Great Darkness back within the earth once more. But the Great Darkness was, at the end of the day, a divine force, one that the mortals failed to seal away completely. Inspired by the key, the team decided to put their powers in physical vessels of their own, and left them on the surface as legacies. Now the lands were ruined. It was getting harder and harder to live such conditions. It seemed that life on this planet would gradually snuff out, including humanity. But the reason why the Master of the Key, the world hero, didn't appear in our time of need is because we humans drained the planet of its powers. Though the Crusader, they began to mobilize to put an end to humanity's so-called glory, and it was the largest obstacle to the revival of the barren lands and the planet's chances at surviving. They left the 7 Meknites they had built in their ruined world after they were programmed with the instructions to help rekindle the planet. The Meknites were also installed with the data of the Crusader members they had established a brain link with. If the lands could be healed once more and the planet could take back the power it once had, they perhaps could avoid an imminent disaster. The Crusader left all their hopes to the faraway future they may not even reach. However, there was one thing they failed to realize. The mastermind behind this incident was Lee. and she was already taken by the burning lands. When she was found, she was already dead. Not only in flesh, her soul had been released from the physical vessel, and she had been transferred into the world legacy, world chalice, and her will and knowledge. And here we are at the peak of the story. I mean, almost at the peak of the story where the Kusaya is formed. Thanks to Orm here, known as Maximus now in this form, that tremendous power that dwelled within that planet is the very thing that Lee was after. Thought Aram suddenly he was struck by a sense of terror. Could feel a great force of malice that turned at the planet. But from where, could not tell. Perhaps someone somewhere was beckoning to the darkness, trying to bring it forth. He had to stop them before another terrible disaster happened. In that moment, Aram's mind, the figure of Ningirsu appeared. The figure of his childhood friend, tormented with the sadness from the loss of Eve, seeking darkness in his despair at the world. Although slight, he could feel Ningirisu's presence within the malice. It couldn't be. Arm reined his uneasy heart in. He would need help to stop this malice. He asked the elders of each tribe to lend him their strength, and they answered his pleas with a great number of warriors, and the tribes united in a fearsome alliance. They named themselves after the warriors of the old that their writing spoke of, and thus the second coming of the Crusader was born. The Crusader was taken to a hidden spot by the tribe of the Sacred Trees and activate World Legacy, World Crown. Arm and his companions had now obtained power that could help them combat the malice that threatened their world. The Crusader began their advance toward the giant tower that center of all the malice. The orchestrated Babel towering in the sky with its metallic magnificence. Surrounding were the orcas, mechanical weapons waiting to stand by on the silent formations. At the tower's base was Ningirsu, activating World Legacy World 1, was the only thing in his mind. Now Oram that could see his childhood friend, the swordsman could only think about how much sadder he looked. Oram prayed that he was only overthinking the situation, but he knew their reality was not a kind one. Ningirsu was here because he wanted the powers of darkness, so he was at the center of the middle of malice Oram had felt. That was the truth and awaited him at the end of his long search. But no matter how much time had passed, no matter how things had changed, the one thing that remained was the same, was Ningirsu was still his friend. Oram thought about what he could do now that he was here. Had to stop Ningirsu from starting a disaster could mean the end of their world. The only one who can stop his villainy is me, Oram thought, gathering all his courage. He had signaled his companions to mobilize, and now a new battle was about to begin. And before that, I have to go Ningirsu's background story, how he became today in the abstract story, Ningirsu's sorrow. When Ningirsu saw what had happened, a bolt of guilt pierced through his grief. Even his desperation, he never imagined this would happen. His eyes could hardly believe what they were seeing. How did all this happen so fast? He prayed that he was dreaming, that he was going to wake soon. All he wanted was to see his dear sister again. At the scene of another nightmare unfurled around him, he became embroiled in a storm of emotions. I need to save Abe. Even his mind was mumbled with stupor. Ningirsu's body began to move without command. In what looked like an impulsive choice, he struck his childhood friend when unconscious, taking both the other man's sword and Eve. What good was this world if Eve were not in it? He would do anything, be it good or evil, if meant that he could see her smile again. That single thought of getting his sister back, all Ningirsu needed to force his weary limbs forward. Had the mech knight chorus from when the six Night Knights were defeated. And now he had the sword he took from Aram. Using the facilities were still present in the Mech Knight headquarters, he analyzed the artifacts with feverish desperation. The world possessed mystical power similar to that of the world legacies, and if anything had a clue regarding its specifics, it would be the Mech Knights. They might even have a way to bring Eve back. Although he unable to glean a way to resurrect Eve, he learned a great deal about a number of facilities from the ancient civilization. Ningirsu left the Mech Knight's headquarters, set off to each one of them with the lifeless body of his sister in tow. Many of the facilities he visited had already ceased to work, and the ones that barely did provide little to no useful information. However, Ningirsu never gave up. There must be a way he could save Eve. With an unwavering belief in his heart, we resumed his grueling journey. Finding a long last, he discovered an ancient facility that was still in working condition. Okay guys, that'll be it for me today. Before going to the phase of Ningirsu's transformation from the World Legacy and the World Chalice to what's it called? Longgear is now called Longgearsu, the Orchestrator. I will stop this video today because I'm reaching the limit of my recording, and that will be it for me today. I hope you guys like this video and the lore of the World Legacy, the Legend of the Star Heroes, and this chapter, the Secret Powers of the Planet. That will be for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Give it a thumbs up if you guys liked it, and please subscribe. Subscribe if you guys want more of my channel's video content, other Genshin and other gacha games. I posted in this channel, and also I put the comment section in this video below in a Discord link in the comment section, and that'll be it for me today. This is your Lucky Spectrum here. Hope you guys enjoy. Thank you guys for watching. Maraming salamat sa papanood nito sa video to guys. Thank you guys for watching. God bless. Maraming salamat sa inyo lahat. Thank you guys for again for watching, and ciao.